Hey guys, welcome to another guest episode of Better Body Radio. And today we are joined by the Mr. Fitness Rebel himself, Nick Daniel, who, safe to say, is a bit of a veteran in the industry with over 20 years of experience in the fitness industry, helping thousands of people and totting up in excess of probably, I think, over 30,000 hours from what I read off of his profile on the gym floor, which is it's no mean feat. That's pretty decent going. So spending a large amount of his career as one of the senior mentor trainers for Ultimate Performance, or UP as many of us know it, an industry leader in physique transformations and body composition. I think that Nick would agree that the birth of Fitness Rebels came out of necessity from his point of view. After numerous injuries and setbacks, losing the strength and the muscle that he spent years building, Nick was mentally and physically broken. So he saw a gap that I feel more and more experienced coaches are seeing, the likes of Luke Lehman and many others who are moving into this sort of space as well, is this idea of bridging the gap between the treatment table and getting after it in the gym, which ultimately is what most of our clients and we want to do. Nick built the knowledge, the tools, and the experience to overcome his own struggles and now helps others do the same. Fitness Rebels was then established in 2020, actually during the last, the start of lockdown in 2020, before the start of the whole pandemic situation globally. And Nick offers a number of valuable services to both clients and the industry alike. I've heard nothing but good things about the Fitness Rebels mentorship, and his podcast, Fitness Rebels Radio, has had some of the top names in the industry featuring without any hesitation. To top it off, he went back to university and is currently finishing off a master's in osteopathy at the London School of Osteopathy. So this guy's education runs deeper than most people you'll find in the industry. I've been following Nick personally since he served his last few months at UP, and I've enjoyed watching in the background really as his growth has kind of continued to happen since that point, and what he's really bringing to the table within the industry is really cool. So whether you're a coach or a fitness enthusiast, I think you're going to get immense value from this episode. So grab a coffee or get locked in on your daily commute and enjoy this one. All right, Nick, thanks for coming on.
No problem, buddy.
Yes, it's been a long time. I think I mentioned this in the intro to the guys, but I've been following you for quite a while. And it's funny, you can see people at a distance in this industry, and it's such a small industry, and there's a lot of names that are, either you kind of seen or heard of, or that you can have mutual friends that, like, for example, you had Andrew Coates on your podcast, I think.
Yeah.
And they're a really good lad. And so, and then he sent me a message like, hey, I just mentioned you. I was on this guy, Nick Daniel's podcast. I was like, oh yeah, like I've been following Nick for a while now. And I noticed that you obviously had like Luke Lehman and Mr. Muscle Doc and all those guys on. And it's just funny how such a small industry it is, and all these people are kind of intermingling and kind of helping each other out, which is really cool. But I think where I kind of started following you, at least initially, was it was just a few months before you moved on from what was probably one of your longer positions in the industry, and you started the whole Fitness Rebels brand. And it has been really, really cool to see that kind of develop over the last year and a half. I think it's been.
Yeah, it's about a year and a half. No, a year now. It's been, I think I dropped Fitness Rebels in lockdown. When we first went into lockdown, that's when I dropped it. Because it was a case of, I've not even started with my baby yet. And I was, because I left UP and I kind of was doing some stuff for about a year, and I was behind the scenes and everything. And it was a situation of waiting for the perfect time. I was kind of a bit nervous about drop, because I was kind of had a good reputation around and people were watching what I was going to do. So I was kind of always thinking, I'm not sure it's good enough. Then I want to wait. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then lockdown hit, and it was like, I've actually got it's now or never. Now is the perfect time to do it. Now is when people need some help and need some guidance and the mentorship and everything. So it was kind of funny, because it's just one of those things where everyone's always guessing themselves. Everyone's always like, oh, should I do it now? Should I be working for the perfect time? Sometimes the opportunities come up and you just have to do it. And it was actually a year from now, really, but I dropped it.
Well, there you go. So I think that probably segues nicely actually into the first question. So that's kind of brought us up almost to the present, but it might be quite cool for those listening who maybe are not familiar with you or haven't heard that much about you and your work and everything that you're currently doing. Can you brief the listener a little bit on just a little bit of your backstory, I guess, and what made you want to get into this whole industry in the first place, which From reading, obviously, you're about you on your webpage. That's obviously been a long time ago now. Not to give away your age or anything like that.
I was going to say, you asked for a little bit of a background, but it's now been, what, 20 years in
There
the
you go.
industry. So basically, yeah, so I started out, I was a sportsman when I was younger. I love my sport. I love running around. I grew up in, obviously, being 40 in the 80s and 90s when kids were always out doing stuff nonstop and always playing and everything. So I was a very active kid. And I was fortunate enough, I had a very good mindset when I was younger as well. And I was very dedicated and I wanted to basically play pro rugby. So that was my focus. I played England rugby when I was 18. Coming from a comprehensive as well, that was not a done thing. I was not a rich school kid. So that was a hard one. The journey there was kind of different. And we'll talk about it later about where where the bodybuilding came in. So I kind of played rugby. I moved to Gloucester, played for Gloucester under 21s. Didn't quite get the contract I wanted because back then, this is how old I was. There was no professional rugby really. And when I started looking for a contract, it was like the second year of when it was actually becoming professional. And that's when they started flying all the all the kind of Kiwis and all the Aussies over. So when I was 16, I was actually trained to kick by Michael Liner when I was at Saracens Academy. So I had Michael Liner. If anyone doesn't know that, probably, all the old guys will, but absolute legend. And then when I went to Gloucester, I was sitting next to people like Ian Jones in the changing rooms. Again, for anyone, just Google these names. Ian Jones was second row captain of the Kiwis. So pretty immense players. So anyway, they were getting flown over. So there's only like about 8 professional clubs back then as well. So it's very limited opportunity. So I didn't make it. And then I moved back to London where I swapped codes. London Broncos saw me play. So I started playing London Broncos. And after a year of that, Richard Branson pulled all his money out. That was when Richard Branson owned them. So then I was kind of left. I was like 22, 21 or whatever I was, 21, 22. Got left with nothing. I was like, oh. And then it was just a point where the manager at the gym I went to just turned around and said, ever thought about personal training? And I always had the mind of, if you've got a plan B, you're not focused on plan A. I had that mindset since an early age. Like if you asked me at 12 years old or 8 or whatever, what do you want to do? I would have said professional rugby player, even though it wasn't a thing. This is what I wanted to do. I want to play for England. And it was a case of teachers would say to me, what about if it fails? Well, it's not. I just believed at such a young age that if you're not focused on one thing, you're already thinking you're going to fail. Always had that mentality. Don't know where it came from. And then, so I started working as a personal trainer because I was like, he said, I'll pay for your qualifications. So I was like, why not? Give it a go. So started working as a fitness instructor because back then you couldn't just personal train. It wasn't like these days. Do a personal trainer course and then you're a personal trainer. You had to be a fitness instructor. You done 40, 50 hours of gym floor where you had to do all the cleaning, you had to do the introductions, write programs for members, and just to be honest with you, and then as that went on, you cut the hours down. And to be honest with you, I think that's the best way of doing it because in the time of being a fitness instructor over a year, you will see hundreds and hundreds of people. You will learn how to write hundreds of programs from an 18-year-old guy who wants to get bigger arms to a 60-year-old female who wants to keep fit and got a dodgy hip. You actually learn so many skills and you're writing like 10 programs a day. And it also teaches you to communicate with people. So I actually think going back into those old style of doing things actually creates really good trainers and it actually helps the industry where to now they don't even have fitness instructors most places. It's straight into personal training because gyms look at money, where I like the way that he did it back in the days. Loved it. Absolutely think that's great. I would say a lot of my success came down to that. I was that guy, and this is again how old I am. I don't know if you know Body Pump, but Body Pump must be on God knows what number. I was at Body Pump when it was like Body Pump number 6.
Jesus.
And I was a pure body pump guy. So in the gym I was is in the suburbs, just outside London. And I remember I had a couple of classes which was rammed full of the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock mums and all mags and that. And I was kitted out with a body pump. I had the short, tight shorts, the vest, and the bandana. I was kitted out, and I loved it. I even done aerobics. I was proper. I was kicking it back then. So body pump, aerobics, spin. I was teaching classes, but again, taught me how to communicate in groups. Taught me how to look after groups. It taught me how to communicate with people from trying to be good at looking after 30 people in a room, focusing on every single one. Actually, I think to be a good group teacher actually teaches you a lot of skills, which you can take into personal training as well. But anyway, did all that. Yeah, then I got into Paul Check at a young age. So I done his course. Then I flew to San Diego to do the level 1. Then I flew to New York to do level 2. I've done all his health stuff as well. There's eat, move, and be healthy stuff and all that. So really big into Paul Check. But before he, I was still a lifter though. Still love my rugby. I was still a bit of a bro. So went through a period of all that. I worked my way up to in Holmes Place, which then got over by Virgin, where I was the youngest gym manager in the whole company out of 50 gyms. And I was part of their academy to help train people up and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Then I took a quick break, buggered off around the world, kite surfing, cowboy in Australia and all that kind of shiz. Met my wife, came back. And then, but that's kind of when UP came in. Then I spent 9 years with UP. And then while I was at UP, became a senior mentor trainer. And then I started doing all the hypertrophy camps, Marbella 3-day training camps. Started designing and doing all that doing all that. And then, yeah, and injuries happened, shit happened, life happens. Went back to uni at like 38 years old for a master's degree in osteopathy. And a year ago, dropped Fitness Rebels. I'm pretty much, that's pretty much it, really.
I think you did an excellent job summing all that up, because that bit where you said where you got, broken and X, Y, and Z, and like there was a lot of stuff that went wrong, you probably could have went on that, and then you've just like, we're just going to wrap that up into like 10 seconds and just leave it, move on.
Dude, I'm guessing that would be another segment later on. We're probably going to cover that later. So if I rambled on about every single thing, then I've got a 20-year history that would take an hour in itself. So I'm sure a lot of it will come up anyway.
A one question podcast, and then pretty much here's the Nick Daniel, here's your life, pretty much.
There's a lot of it. I've not lived a boring life. So it's like when I sit down to people like Derek Woodsky and that, and they just talk about stuff, it's like, what? Yeah. So I could have gone into when I was a cowboy in the outback, all the stuff I did out there, or when I lived in Fiji. Yeah. I mean, there's like, it depends on what way you want to take the podcast, dude.
Those stories for days there. We'll leave that for another time, I think. But it was interesting about the whole, the kind of fitness instructor role. The funny thing is, Michael Goulden of Integra said the exact same thing. He said, I think they need to bring that back. They need to bring a structure back to it, because taking that away is probably one of the biggest disservices they've done to the industry, because people don't get the time to, exactly like you said, forget all the, the right programs and even the technical knowledge, but actually just developing people skills to know how to communicate with people and build rapport and be that face around the gym floor that people trust and everything else. So it's huge.
And it's not even that. I think, it's all of that. And I also think it will wipe out a lot of fucking egos, because so many people come into the industry and they get their tits and ass out and all of a sudden become like 20,000 followers, and they think they're this big thing, egos, and it's become this I don't know how to word it, but it's just the qualities has gone downhill. And if you brought in the fitness instructor, it just means everyone's the same level. And it kind of like, and it's hard work, and it'll weed out all these people for some reason. I don't know why, but people think the fitness industry is an easy industry. I don't know why. It's one of the fucking hardest industries to make money or to make a career out of. People can make money quickly for a year. And, you know, you can start a business. You might be successful for 6 months because you're new, but to keep that going after years, to keep putting money in after 10 years, to have a mortgage, to go to the bank and go, I want that 800 grand house. You know what I mean? To run it like a business. That's not easy,
No.
you know, but people don't realize this. I would say it's one of the hardest to make an actual decent living out of.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
remember as well, way back at the start of mine. I mean, I say way back, this is literally half of your career, but 10 years ago was when I got into the industry. And I remember teaching the aqua aerobics, the spinning. I had those, those older ladies in the swimming pool with their noodles, doing all that stuff. And, you took on all those things, and you did the cleaning of the treadmills, and you did all the groundwork because you're like, well, you just need to be grateful. I'm given an opportunity. But nowadays, it's kind of like you just get to bypass all of that. And like you say, you can just set up an Instagram profile because obviously, even 10 years ago, none of that stuff was around. You couldn't just pop up an Instagram profile, get your tits and ass out, or get your abs out, or whatever else. And you couldn't use any of that for leverage. It was a case of, right, do I develop rapport with the people in my community? Can I then get results? Can I get word of mouth and reputation? But like you said, all of that stuff is still there, but it's much easier for people to, like say, come in but with no real substance to them or what they do or who they are. I guess the thing is, and I think we spoke off air about taking the positives out. I know Andrew Coates has said this before as well, is that if we made it harder to get into the industry, I don't think that would necessarily make things better. But I do think, like you say, bringing in a bit more structure again.
see, I think it would. I think it would make it better. I think
argument with him as well. That was the thing. I had that argument, and he was like, "Well, I think that will make it harder." And I was like, "Well, maybe there's a middle ground to be met somewhere, surely."
It's not really. It's not really making it harder. It's making it so that people are better qualified. So if you bring someone, I'm not saying like when people say make it harder, like someone said to me once, yeah, everyone should have a degree. No, I don't believe in that at all. I don't think you need a degree. I haven't got a degree, and I like to think I'm pretty damn good at what I do. And I know other people who have got degrees in other things and are doing very well and they're very good. But what if you were a fitness instructor, say, and you had to do fitness hours for like, say, 3 months? Like I said, there's no other industry. You don't walk into a law firm and become a fucking MD. You don't walk into any other business and become an MD of the company, or you have to start at the bottom in every industry. But for some reason, the fitness industry is the only industry where you can walk in and act Johnny Big Balls instantly. And I think starting at the bottom will teach people. It will get rid of the ego. It'll teach people a bit of humility. It'll get rid of the ego. It'll teach people that everyone's a bit more equal, and it teaches skills, as you said. And with those skills, you become better trainers. With those better trainers, the industry raises standards. Because the problem is the standards are so fucking low. So the public expect those standards to be so fucking low. And that's the problem. If you constantly have such a low standard, everyone expects that. That's what happens. And so other trainers come in and just the standards getting low, it gets lower and lower and lower. Yes, that means there's an opportunity for people to come in and raise it, and then you look like 10 times better. But overall, it's still an industry where if you say to someone, I'm a personal trainer, they kind of have oh, really? You just basically walk around your abs out and just shout at people. And so these people lowering the standards is doing a disservice to the industry by making it like a joke to a lot of people. And like, it's not a profession, and we're just like, I know some people, I used to call it, even it was something of a we don't need a personal trainer. It's just one of those nice things to have. Well, actually, I've changed my mind about that. You kind of, everyone needs that person guiding them, because in anything, if we don't know, we don't know. So yeah, I just think bringing back the fitness instructor thing, it's not necessarily making it harder. It's proving your worth and building and showing that you want it. kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think as well on top of that, it's accountability. I mean, I think one of the things that's so important for growth is actually being held accountable. And the funny thing is the deeper you get into this career, you actually end up seeking out people to hold you accountable so that you can become better, so that you can learn more. But the problem is it's almost like that disappears at the start of the industry. It's like, and I think that's why environments, like UP, for example, do so well, is because you're brought into an environment where it's like, right, you're going to be held accountable for your actions, for how you conduct yourself, your professionalism. And I think that's a great thing. But now, like you said, though, the standards and the accountability are almost just part of the side. It's just like, well, as long as you're willing to pay the money to get in the door, then that's all you need. And then setbacks, how can you go?
Well, that's like when I was a fitness manager, people used to walk in for an interview wearing a hoodie and tracksuit bottoms. And I used to go fucking livid. I never hired. I was like, why the fuck are you wearing that? And I wouldn't hire them, because I actually sent some people home sometimes. Because in my opinion, I don't care if you're a personal trainer. You turn up and give the job respect. But even the trainers don't see it as a profession. Even trainers don't see it as the way that some trainers turn up to their jobs. If, when you see them in gyms with muddy trainers, or they're looking all shaggy and, the clothes don't fit or whatever, this is still a profession. It's still your job. And you still taking pride in what you do and who you are. And to turn up to a job interview wearing tracky bees and a hoodie, it just frustrates me. But that's the whole thing of, even the trainers themselves don't see it as a kind of career and take as a profession to take pride in. So that's got to change from the inside as well, of how we see our profession and how we see things. And then, raising our standards, like as you said, I know one of the things you want to talk about was what I learned, a couple of things I learned at UP. And I can tell you right now, probably the biggest thing I learned from Mitchell and that place was raise the fucking standards. Raise them high.
Yeah.
He brought to me, Mitchell with UP brought the standard to personal training to me. Because yes, you had these posh places, Matt Roberts and everyone else who you walked in there, there'd be a fucking fountain in the corner, they'd have their hair nicely done and they'd be nicely softly spoken. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Nick raised the standards of how you looked, like your clothes, yes, your hair, but also the way you acted, what your knowledge was. Your knowledge, he wanted UP's knowledge. When we first there, the standard was we were the best. You have to fucking study. You have to know your stuff. If you're in a team meeting and we had to do presentations, and at that point it was on like, I don't know, this week Nick's going to talk about T3, or someone's going to talk about estrogen metabolization, what are these supplements doing, and all this kind of stuff. We were having in-depth conversations, and if you weren't seen to be keeping up, it'd be like, come on, why not? You got to go away, work harder. And the standards of results, the standards of how we looked and how we trained. Do you know what I mean? Everything was just about raising the standard in every aspect in that gym and in ourselves. And I think he brought a lot of raising the standards when he started 10 years ago or whatever. And that's the one thing I learned, and the one thing I learned and I do with myself personally and professionally is make sure the standards are high.
Yeah.
And, and I think when the industry itself starts raising the standards, but it has to happen from within. And there's probably only about 10% of people who actually want to raise those standards. Yeah. The rest are happy just doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just sitting here nodding my head because I feel like I've had these exact same rants before, and I feel like it's hard because I think I even said this to my wife earlier today. It's like it's quite lonely sometimes when you're in a position where you feel like you're a minority and you're kind of like you're so passionate about, like you say, seeing this as a profession and what you this industry is capable of, and you kind of have these rants sometimes and it just falls on deaf ears because, like you said, there's just not enough. It needs to get to the point where it's the majority that see this as a profession and not the minority. I think
exactly.
If there, then that's going to be an awesome place to be, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just can't see that swinging too much, unfortunately, with the numbers and that. But I can tell you something right now. Every single person I know who has got a company or a gym or anything like that, the biggest issue they have is staff. And the biggest issue with the staff is that they haven't got the same standards and they're not willing to have the same standards as the person who owns it. And that is the biggest problem I see with everyone. Because as I said, trainers just want to come in, go. It's an industry where I don't like this in my industry because there's some amazing things about it, but my God, the egos and the narcissism in it is just, it's ridiculous.
It's something.
But that's why, to be honest with you, like you said, the people of my podcast and the people I've surrounded myself with years is because I like to think I'm a good guy in the industry. So I've surrounded myself with other good guys. So I don't see too much of it anymore, of that kind of side of things, because I've surrounded myself with amazing people, as you know. So that's one other thing I would say as well, is if you do feel like what you said, a bit caught out of it and a bit like you're on your own, you just have to reach out and find people who think like you, talk like you, and then you find yourself like a little group of mates, or you find yourself a home. That's the only way you can keep sane, or else you will lose faith. And this goes through life. That goes through business, in the fitness, outside of fitness. That goes through life as well in general. A little bit of life advice. If you're feeling like there's no, people aren't on the same level as you, go and fucking find them. Because if you're not on the same level, for one, it will hold you back, and it's going to make you unhappy.
Yeah, it's good advice. When I reached out to do some of the studying with Integra, for example, getting into that environment where those guys are literally, Michael that's all he cares about, is just pushing the level. Like, where's your knowledge now? It doesn't matter where you're at. He's like, I want to find out exactly where you are right now, but I want to help you step up. And it doesn't matter if this person's 1 year in the industry or 15 years. Let's
exactly.
Level up. And I think that environment, and probably like you say, I think that would be a big bit of advice I would give to trainers. I suppose that's why I created my mentorship for coaches out here as well, was to try and get a like-minded community of coaches who just feel like, right, I'm not being judged, I'm not being, it's a safe environment to get things wrong. It's a safe environment to speak your mind and to try new things and to learn. And I think that's so important for any coaches. Get yourself in that environment for sure.
Yeah, and this is the thing where people people diss like new coaches, or they diss what people are doing, and that everyone's on a different journey. And I see it all the time at the moment, people going, oh, if you do this, you're an idiot, or I can't believe people still do this. And I'm like, dude, I know the fact that you were doing it until 2 weeks ago, until you've done someone else's course. And now you're telling everyone else they're idiots for doing it. It's like, get back in your box. We all started somewhere. I could say I used to squat on a Swiss ball. There you go. There you have it. I've squatted on a fucking Swiss ball. Yes, I have. But I don't anymore, because do you know what? You go through this shit, you learn, and you keep progressing your learning, you change, and you become better. And the fact is, it's because of people doing dumb shit that you're now in a position where you can say that's dumb, because someone's got to do the dumb shit to know it's dumb. Do you know what I mean? Science can say something, but then you need a bunch of guys going out there trying it with their athletes, trying it with professional sports team, and going, do you know what? The science said that, but it's a load of crap. Or, I mean, or the science says that and it actually works. Either way, you need people trying shit out, full stop. So stop dissing people. But the only thing I get mad at, if people are trying to be better and trying to help people, like you said, Michael Gordon, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're just starting the industry, you're doing horrendous stuff. To me, in my opinion, what is horrendous stuff? Again, opinions. Let's just state that. In my opinion, is fucking stupid. But the trainer has a really good soul and is just trying to help this person, and that's the best they know how. Fucking love it. Absolute fucking love it. But if it's someone who's doing stupid shit, they qualified 5-6 years ago and haven't opened a book or done a course since, then that's what annoys me. But people got to stop bashing, because everyone's trying to help. Most people, everyone's in the industry trying to help. Well, most of them. Some are just wanting to make some quick cash, but a lot of people in the industry trying to help people, and they're trying to help people the best they can. They might not be able to afford the £1,000 worth of courses to educate themselves. They might not be the cleverest, might have had a different upbringing to you. You might be some posh, a lot of people have had nice upbringing, gone to nice schools, quite happy to diss other people, but you don't know their story, you don't know their background. So just fuck off. I just hate it. Everyone's on a different path. They're just trying to help. That's a little rant, because I just had to know why that rant came out. But it's just as you said about the people in the industry, the beginners and the 5 years and everything. It's just, everyone's just trying to help. And I think trying to progress is fantastic. So stop jumping at everyone and just trying to help everyone to get better. And that's the only way, again, the industry is going to raise up.
Definitely. It's like you can either look down on people or you can reach out a hand. I know what I'd rather do anyway, that's for sure. So I want to just kind of elaborate on, because you obviously talked about that. There was that one thing you said from UP that you felt was a big thing you learned as far as raising the standards. But if you had to pick maybe another couple of things that were just like for you massive learnings or insights, what would those things be?
If you thought you trained hard, you don't. Like, again, I had the mentality of when I was younger, I was like, when I trained, I was a sprinter. I was in a sprint group, and I was like the only white guy. I was always the white guy at the back. And I was also a skinny kid. So in rugby, I was just always getting pounded. So I had the mentality of, in my athletics, once they had all gone in, I'll do a few more. I'll crack out a couple more 200s or something. I had to outwork them, because being the skinny white kid, I had shit genetics, and I got a lot of what I got from hard damn work. So once everyone gone back in, I had done a few more. In rugby, when everyone gone in, I got the biggest person to run at me because my defense was crap. I wanted them to run at me time and time again until I couldn't get up again. I had the mentality of that, working hard. But yet, still, when you in the gym environment, you think you're working hard, but UP taught me there was a next level. When you think you can't get another rep in, you've got another 4 or 5. None of this. It's just, it taught me there's more in you, and it taught me how to push harder. And yeah, a real focus mentality. I thought I was focused in my training, but it taught me to take it up to another level. So that would be really the two main things I learned from that kind of environment, was that the standards and really what hard work is. Like, people talk about hard work now, like the amount of times when new trainers have come in, or people talk to me like, oh yeah, I got up at 6, I had like 4 or 5 clients, I've had to train myself and I'm tired. I'm like, and I haven't got time to train myself. And I'm like, what do you mean I haven't got time to train yourself? Oh, well, I've got 8 clients. So that's 8 hours a day. What else are you doing? Like, when I started at UP, I got into the gym at 6. I'd done my strength workout, my CNS workout. And then I'll do 4 or 5 clients. Then I'll do my hypertrophy workout in my lunch. Then I'll do another 4 or 5 clients. Then like around 8 o'clock, I'll do maybe I might do another arm session, or I might do an endurance session. Back in the days, I trained 2-3 times a day, all split up shorter sessions, because there were shorter sessions because I had limited time available, because I was working hard. So instead of trying to bust out an hour and a half session, I broke it down, and I broke it down into CNS, into hypertrophy, into endurance, or whatever, or maybe just an arm session in the day, just for fun. But it taught me hard work. So it was like, well, I want this. So, and then I got up at 5 a.m. to study the next day, and then train twice a day again, and then do 9 hours of work again, and then study again. And it just seems I worked hard, but then that just took me up to like, the next notch. Like, I remember one time, one of my first sessions training in there's a few boys, because when I went in there, I weighed 88 kilos and I was shredded. Most of the guys in there were around 110 plus and shredded. So at that point, it was insane. But I remember a session where we done a tricep. It was front squat, into a front V squat into leg press. So it was a quad session. And I remember, and I'm not, this is back in my bro days. I'm not promoting this, but I remember I actually went, my vision in one eye it went all bloodshot. It was bright red. And I was blurry in one eye for like about 2-3 hours. But obviously being back in my bro days, I was like, dude, this is fucking sick. I can't believe I've gone blind by training. I was like so happy. I was like, this is amazing. I'm fucking God. Look at this. I am so cool. And then, now I might see things a bit differently. Not literally, because my eyesight came back after 2 hours. It was just, but it was just, I'm not promoting working that hard, but it was just the fact that I could.
Yeah.
It was the fact that I kind of realized, damn, when I thought to myself, I can't go on, when you have 2 or 3 people around you who you respect, they're your training partners, and it is ego. There's some, we've all got ego in us, and it's always going to flare out sometimes. It's just amazing when you got people around you to support you, what the fuck you can do. And yeah, it just kind of blew my mind. And again, you might even want to put support into that as well, because at that point, the team that we had really, really helped each other to progress, to look after each other and to move forward. But yeah, so the hard work thing just, it made me realize. And then when I started doing all the camps, it was funny. People would come to me and go, I would say, what's your PB on the squat? I'd be like, 140. And then they'll be doing 160 with me. I'm like, yes, I did tweak techniques and we did do some little kind of like, firing up things of CNS. And, obviously there were other little things which I'd never done before, but that doesn't jack it up to 20 kilos. Why did they just suddenly put 20 kilos on? Most of it because you're in a room of 30 or 40 people. You've got 10 trainers shouting at you, and then you got me in your ear, and all of a sudden something flicks, you just added 20 kilos onto your PB. So it kind of showed me how so many people are holding themselves back in their training because they're just not working hard enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's the third point. You can definitely add the environment and the support network that you have around you, surrounding yourself with people who push you to be better. That then feeds into the second part, which is that working hard as well.
Yeah, and the environment, and that's another thing. And going in business, training, life advice, put yourself in the environment that you want.
Yeah.
Like I got fucking huge. Why? Because I was in an environment where everyone was huge. So there was no option. I had to get huge. But I've always wanted to. That was something on my bucket list, which I really wanted to do, was be on stage or look a certain way. But now it's not so much on my bucket list. But I can tell you something right now. If your gym in a training environment or a work environment does not get you hard, then you leave and you find somewhere else. I had a client who about a year ago was saying XYZ, and I pushed them to quit their job because the environment they were in was depressing them. And now he's the happiest he's ever been because he's put himself in a different environment. And I think that goes for anyone who's not just in the gym, anyone, anywhere in life. If you're not in the right environment, you could either be making yourself very unhappy and you can be holding yourself back from achieving everything you ever wanted to achieve, because that environment is fucking gold. If you want to be a triathlete, you can't just train by yourself. You got to go to a triathlon club where everyone else is doing it. If you want to be whatever you want to be, you put yourself and surround yourself with those people. And that is the only way that you will ever really achieve. Like, you can achieve really cool shit without doing that, but you'll find that you'll take it to the next level.
Yep.
When you put yourself in another room with people who are already there and the people who you want to be, who are doing better than you, then you'll fly even more. Like, I've seen quite a few people in our industry do, exactly the same kind of thing. They're doing really well, but then they put themselves in a room with these guys and all of a sudden they fly even harder.
Yeah.
And Yeah. So, the environment is so important in every aspect of life, every aspect of life. And I think that environment, I would never have learned so much or got as big or the results I ever did if it wasn't for the environment which it had back then.
Definitely. That environment thing is so huge. You see that all the time with even clients, personal training clients, where they have a certain associated group of friends. They go out brunching every weekend. It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday on the Raz, and then all of a sudden they start, maybe spending more time with people who are a bit more conscious. They like to go to bed at a certain time. They have certain values. They prioritize the nutrition and the food and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, oh, why did this so become so much easier to make these changes? Well, the environment, the people you spend your time with is completely changed. So that then, of course, is going to lead on to making it much easier to follow through and all the other things, right? So yeah, I think environment is huge. It's probably one of the most underestimated aspects of change, I think, as well.
Yeah. Well, when people say, "Oh, what gym should I join or where should I go?" I'm like, wherever you, if you like, if you go to a gym and it's carpeted and there's a fountain in the corner and it's playing classical music, but that's what gets you feel comfortable there and you can work out hard there. Fantastic. If you go into a gym and you're scared that if you actually cut yourself, you might get AIDS or something, then it's just so rusty and just it's just like, oh, just then if that gets you going, fuck, go there. I don't care what gym. It's all so personal. And to be honest with you, I'll have I will always train in 2 or 3 different gyms depending on the training session that I want. So I'd have my bodybuilding session would be in one gym. Then if I want to do more of a conditioning session, that would be in another gym. And if I wanted to do like a strongman session, that would be in another gym. Because they have different equipment, but also the vibe's different. Like I've got no interest on kind of bodybuilding as such in the gym by me because it's not that kind of gym. And I just don't feel like it, but I like doing my conditioning in there and a bit more like, a bit more conditioning where there's a bodybuilding gym, a 20-minute drive. Well, obviously if I go there, I just flashbacks to me being 110 kilos again and wanting to deadlift and smash myself up. It comes back. It's so, as you said, that so even if you're a member of 2 gyms, if you've got slightly different if you're doing concurrent programming, sometimes think about that. You might need to change the environment for the type of workout you're doing, and the people you surround yourself with for different workouts. So just have, people have got to think about that as well. There's nothing wrong with having 2 gyms for two different workouts and 2 different mentalities. Because I can tell you what, the mentality for conditioning is so different to the mentality of bodybuilding in the sense of environment.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I did competitive CrossFit for about 5 years, actually ended up managing to get to regionals as part of a team at one point as well. And the environment that it took to excel that versus what I'm kind of currently doing now, which is I'm actually going to do my first show later in the year, physique show. It's a completely different, it's a different mindset, different ball game altogether as far as where you kind of have to take yourself to perform optimally in either of those 2 things. So, and then even as well, like rugby, when I was playing rugby, the way that I thought about training then was also, again, very different because the environment was and the expectations were also different as well. So, yeah, it's huge. Massive.
Well, the thing you just named, the thing about bodybuilding, it's a very introvert thing. Even if you're an extrovert, it's a very isolated kind of thing to do. So, and everything else you mentioned there was very team environment. Like even CrossFit's a very team kind of, it's a very
social.
It's a very social thing. So it is, just the environments. It's just, if anyone takes anything away, just I would say the environment you're in, if you change that, like even if you train at home, just make sure, I know through lockdown that it was hard, but even if you train at home, make sure where you train is a different room. It's like a different section. So that's like the gym part, like the garage is where you work out, not your lounge, because you still got that mentality of this is the lounge and you would never work as hard. But if you're in the garage and you make it like a gym, you will work out just as hard. Do you know what I mean? So again, just always making that environment, but that goes into, as I was saying about life, environments, even relaxing, because we could talk about you know, when you want to relax, you know, we know stress is a big thing on people. Their results, you know, whatever their results are, whatever they want, as in fat loss or strength or whatever it is, does come down to also, everything comes down to um, how we measure the stress and how we balance the stress. And I would say having somewhere where you know you can relax and having an environment which is relaxful is a big thing as well. So yes, training environment, but we also need environments where we can relax and have fun. And we don't want to try and make the two the same.
Yeah, so definitely a fantastic way to finish that point for sure. I want to move on to, I suppose, a bit more about you, a bit more about the education that you've been through as well. And it's without doubt, I mean, anyone that looks on the Fitness Rebels website and even just look at the, you know, the study that you've done, I mean, it's a laundry list. You've literally done, you're an educated individual. I think that goes without saying. And obviously that then extends onto the osteopathy that you're doing at the moment as well. So you've obviously studied like quite a broad range of different certifications across the industry. And I thought this was a great opportunity to ask a bit of a two-parter as far as question goes and explore that a bit further. So firstly, what are 3 beliefs that you used to follow that you've since changed your mind on?
Again, you say used to, it's kind of, I kind of probably gone through everything. So it's not, I've never not done something, but I probably would say when I switched to more the bodybuilding mentality, I stopped moving.
Right.
If that makes sense.
As in mobility,
so,
and other types of movements. And
well, I stopped moving. I stopped walking. I stopped running. I stopped rotating. All of a sudden, everything, I know people joke about it, but I'm a living proof of it. Just working in this sagittal plane. I know when people go, oh, you know, like it even got to the point where you're like, oh yeah, I am working frontal plane because I'm doing fucking lateral raises. No, that's not the same shit. It, you know, it's, you know, and it's got to a point where my body forgot how to move. And if you watch people moving now through the bodybuilding, what's happened is people are now training everyone like a bodybuilder. And that's the problem. Like if you want to get on stage as a bodybuilder, cool. And you want to do it 2, 3, 4, 5, you want to do it for the next 10 years or whatever, cool. Nothing wrong with that. Take drugs, get huge, be hench, great. Fucking awesome. I did, you know, it was a great time, but I loved it. But at the same time, if a general you know, anyone who's not wanting to be on stage, you have to think about how the body moves, even somebody who does want to get on stage. So what I mean by this, this is where misinterpreting information or using information too much. So I done the first ever RTS course. And the way a lot of people take it is lock everything fucking down, which is kind of, you know, isolate everything, tie yourself down, isolate everything. You get yourself in the perfect position and work that muscle to maximize how much force you can produce. Cool. That is so true. But that's, now we're talking to the point of, like, I think I love the way the muscle doc says it. It's a case of that's physics, not biomechanics, because biomechanics, we're looking at how we're moving and how one joint affects another joint, how it affects another joint in rotation and transverse and frontal plane. And when you start tying everything down and you start putting everything back and locking everything down, yes, we're producing more force in that muscle, but at what cost? Are we actually losing the way the body moves, the way the fascia connects, the way the neuromuscular connections, the way the nervous system works, proprioception, our body, you know, realizing where it is in time and space and all this kind of thing. And how, you know, and that's kind of like where I went through. I was locking everything down. And one of my biggest issues was my compression, and what I got my compression in my back. And the fact that I was locking my scapula down so much. And it was a big proportion of me where my education taught me how I got injured and everything was I believe I was locking things down too much. And I was going too far down the machine, locking things down, tying myself, trying to get the maximum output of a muscle. Cool. But what about the maximum output of the nervous system or the maximum output of the body? And this is where I feel that I fell down. Like I feel a lot of people are falling down, and where I fell down of not keeping some kind of movements out there. Like how many people do step ups? That's gone out of fashion. It's like, oh, step ups because we're using different muscles and we're not going to get the force out there because a grip might go, and we got to look at the upper body. So therefore we're not getting most force contraction out of the glutes and the quads. So let's do a leg extension tied fucking down with a band. And then we put a band over here and we'll do this. And then it's like, whoa. Okay. But what about just how the body's supposed to move? The body's supposed to have this frontal plane stability. It's supposed to be able to move through space, transverse. It's supposed to move through space, and it's supposed to fight against gravity. We're supposed to be able to stabilize on one leg as we pass through the other leg. We're supposed to rotate. The scapula is supposed to come protract. All these things, what the body's supposed to be doing, we're now missing because we're not getting the maximum control, which I understand, but we got to look at maybe some accessory exercises, or in some of like the deload sessions we have, or at the end of a session, or wherever you place it, having some of these movements which still allow the body to learn how to move. Now, don't get me wrong, it's always a sliding scale. Now, it's a sliding scale in the sense of if you are going to go fucking huge, guess what? You are going to lose mobility and kind of like movement, because the body has become more stable to be able to produce more force. So when you start going, as I said, 88 kilos, I was a fucking athlete. 110 kilos, I was a block, and I couldn't rotate, and I walked like a monkey. I walked like a gorilla side to side because I couldn't rotate. I lost all my athleticism. But you can call it athleticism, or you can just call it human fucking movement. So it's on a sliding scale. If you are huge and hench and you're a monster, I'm going to allow it. But if you still weigh 90 kilos, or if you weigh 85 kilos and you can't fucking rotate and you can't stabilize on one leg and you ain't huge, you're not a monster. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be in pain. Yeah, the big guys might be in pain at some point, but they're not trying to do other stuff. But they go down that route because it's a sliding scale, as I said. And like you'll see at some point, I think like Jordan Peters talks about it, like he's going to lose a lot of weight soon and become more of an athlete. He's going to start to learn to move again, but he will find that he's lost all ability, and it's going to be and he will get it back because he's a very clever guy and he knows the right people. But you'll see it, a lot of the training he has to do is going to be completely different to be able to get back to that athleticism. But he's built that muscle. So to me, what I would say, I know that's a roundabout way of what I was saying, but it's not getting so caught up and locking everything down and trying to maximize the exercise. Sometimes we have to think about what is the body supposed to do and how does it move, and not lose that too much. Like I said, I don't mind losing it somewhat, as long as I know at some point I'll be putting it back. Do you know what I mean? So that's where you're programming and knowing what you're doing to the body and how you're affecting the body and the nervous system, the tissues, all this kind of stuff. So when you might have gone too far and then whatever. But this is what I mean by the general public, people who aren't wanting to compete. You shouldn't be training them to, like a bodybuilder, to get fucking hench. You should still be thinking we need to move them as well. And I'm not talking about fucking animal flow and throwing around that large rubber dildo of a viper, whatever it is. I'm talking like learning how to actually keep rotation. So when you do lunges, we're still looking at keeping our sternum over our front knee. We're looking at working that body. We're looking at sprinting. We're looking at step ups, but not keeping the body dead straight. We're looking at rotation. We're looking at keeping this movement while we're still building muscle and while we're still losing fat. And that's, to me, what Fitness Rebels is. Fitness Rebels was born because I think everyone, and you should have some sense of mobility. You should have some sense of work capacity, so aerobic fitness. You should have some sense of body composition. We all know fat is not good for you. And then we all should have some strength. And then on that sliding scale, depending on what my client wants, I will have a good base of all of that. And if you've got a good base of work capacity, body composition, mobility, and strength, if you turn around and go, I want to do a strongman powerlifting comp, cool, we're 3 to 6 months away. And we'll go sliding more of a scale that way, but then we'll bring you back. Or if we're here, someone might say, I want to do a marathon. Okay, we're 3 months away because we've got a great work capacity and we've got the strength, we're not going to get injured. We can push that. And you can kind of take the sliding scale either way because we're already in like this prepped position of being, okay, I've got all the good attributes to be fucking awesome. And what do I want to do with it? And we can always just kind of pull that scale back and forth depending on where people want to go.
Yeah, I think that's probably as good an answer as I would have really expected from that. And I'm glad you went with that specific example of the RTS because it's interesting. I think there's a lot of trainers now that are coming into the industry quite early on, that maybe it's like the first 1 year, maybe even the first 5 years, and then they come across it. And you'll know from obviously studying this, and granted, Tom has, of course, revised some of the stuff that he's now teaching, and the RTS method has developed. But with that said, there is still a lot, and I see it all the time, there's still a lot of that mentality of, exactly like you said, it's like, really, right, we need the maximum output from muscle all the time. And like you said, that's fine if maybe for a short term, you're trying to achieve the best possible physique transformation, or you're trying to step on stage. But then it's almost like with a diet, like you have the exit strategy, but what's the exit strategy for the training? What else is there to this whole game? And like you said, most of my clients, they're pretty adamant that they want to be able to move. They want to have mobility. They want to have other qualities of fitness beyond just looking hinged or being lean or getting jacked. And so I think that's so important.
I think what you just said there is the key comment as well, because people have to fucking realize what their clientele is. And their clientele, unless you're training competitors, you've got to think what's best for your clients. And your clients generally, they don't want to be hench. They just want to have, they might want a 6-pack, and they want to be able to pick their kid up, not in pain. They want to be able to walk without their knees hurting. They want, they just want to feel good. They want to have energy and sleep and just feel fucking awesome. And that's generally what people want. When they start shitting all the time, and when they start, having energy and they're focused and they're concentrated and they've got motivation, they bend down, they're playing with their kid in the backyard and they've got a 6-pack, or they've got, got some biceps, they'll be ecstatic. So you have to think about what's going to get people to be able to move. And I said, I'm not dissing RTS. Like I use a lot of it. Of course I do. But I said, it's all about when you use stuff. But again, that's taken me 20 years to know how to program for this. It's taken me 20 years to get the knowledge to be able to fix. Like I had one client who walked across, well, he literally called me the day, but he walked across the car park. His knees were so bad. He was in tears. He couldn't pick his children up because he was in so much pain from all this bodybuilding kind of training stuff and strongman stuff. And he came to me, and at the same time, we built muscle. We got him leaner, got him a 6-pack, and now he's training for a strongman competition. And that was for a point when he couldn't even walk. And yeah, it's taken me 20 years to get the knowledge to be able to do that. So I'm not saying it's easy, but what people have to do is realize, don't just this is what you're saying about being well educated. I've taken bits from everything I do. I'll take bits from everyone I talk to. I'll take bits from someone who's been in the industry a year, because they might say something. I'm like, oh, that's quite a good idea, because they heard it from somewhere else, or they've just had a good idea. Don't have an ego. And what happens is people do courses and then they change the whole entire approach from one course. Yeah. And it's like, no, you go on courses and you need to take stuff out of these things, which they're tools, and you use it for the person in front of you for when you need it. And and like I said earlier, I don't diss anyone from doing any of this because I went through it. I learned from my mistakes. Virtually, I would say 100% of the advice I ever give, I ever give through life or through training or whatever is down to my experience, my mistakes, what I've learned, and what I fucked up with. Because that's what it is. And it takes time to do that. You talk to, I've had some great people on the podcast, when I was talking to Christian Tibbs and Luke Lehman, we all do stupid shit. That's how we learn, So, but yeah, but one thing I would say is when you do these courses and when you do stuff, just don't get caught up in this one way. Think about it. Go away and think about how that works for you, how that works for your clients, and how's it actually working. So, oh yeah, this will help someone with knee pain. Do you actually understand 100% why that would help someone with knee pain? Because if you've only got one tool, what happens is when that one tool works for the 8 out of 10, what happens when there's those two people? Then you sit there and go, I don't know, because you haven't understood fully what you're trying to achieve. So you only know the tool, but you don't know how to use the tools. And that's, you've got a toolbox, but you don't really know how to use it. And that's the problem, is just kind of, you got to try and keep this mind open and exploring all the time, and don't just go down this one route. And as I said, the RTS, the way that I interpreted and the way that I used it, and the way is a way that I see a lot of other people using it, is it did screw the way my body worked. But again, that was my interpretation and the way that I used it.
Yeah.
And I see, all I'm saying is I see a lot of people using it in the same way. I'm not dissing it, because I said I do love it. I use a lot of it. I would recommend it, but it's just a way of, it's not the Bible. Yeah. Like no courses.
I think that's what I'm seeing as well. Like a lot of people are doing that, and then it's like, right, I'm going to be married to only the principles from this, and that's going to cover all the methodology I ever do with training. And I'm actually kind of glad for me that I've kind of came into it much later on versus earlier, because I went through all the other education that covered many other different schools of thought and everything else. Because I see so many trainers now, it's like they never have a client. Don't get me wrong, I don't think necessarily all clients should be putting like a bar on their back from day one. But I actually just see such an occurrence of never ever doing like squats, bench, or deadlift. Not that everyone should, that's a whole other conversation, but just having the toolbox to be able to say, right, well, actually, this person wants to be able to squat or do a really good split squat or do step up. So they want to be able to do these movements that don't require a machine or cables or some form of restraint. Have I got the skills and the knowledge to actually be able to effectively teach them how to use their own body and, like you say, handle that through space? And so then when you can start looking at it and a client says, listen, I really want to learn how to squat. If all you've ever done is the RTS stuff and you've never learned how to get people to move their whole body, what do? So you don't have the toolbox to help them actually achieve that goal. So I think, like you said, that would probably be the same thing I would reiterate, would just be, it's good to have a wide toolbox, because you're going to need plenty of tools as you come across all clients.
Like at the moment, the new thing is the breathing, and the new thing is the PRI style of stuff. That's kind of like the new kind of thing coming in now. And I had this discussion with a few people, and now it's got to a point where it's movement is becoming like, yeah, we want to be able to move better. Like I said that, but the problem is now the training is not really training. The training is now just exercise. It's now just moving. It's like, no, that's not the point. I'm not doing this drill to become awesome at this drill. I'm doing this drill to make me awesome at lifting some heavy shit, or I'm doing this drill to make me fucking awesome at sprinting down the track. And that's where I think people are losing. As I said, it just, things look cool. And at the end of the day, the things that look great on Instagram are generally the things that I think are being used too much. But they're the things that look cool and make you look amazing. We're actually just doing the good old hard graft correctly with proper periodization or programming, kind of, unfortunately, is just that's what gets you the goals in the end. The fancy stuff just looks fancy for Instagram and makes you look cool for saying some big words.
It's doing the unsexy stuff exceptionally well.
Yeah, it's like, everyone's hating the back squat at the moment, the PRI guys, because of the compression it gives you in the spine, and you can't expand and all these kind of things. And then you get other people saying, oh, but it's not working your quads from one. It's just, yeah, but sometimes people just like to go in and back squat. Let them, as long as they're not doing themselves damage. And you know what? If they are compressing themselves, and that everything you do after that exercise, you're just using to expand. What I mean? It's just, to me, training, there's no such thing as injury prevention. We're just trying to limit the chance of it, and we want to limit the time it takes when you are injured to come back. But the fact of the matter is, the body doesn't want to squat front, back, fucking side, whatever, with 100, 200, 300 kilos in your back. The body doesn't want you sprinting down the track and jumping over hurdles, or doing the stuff we do. It doesn't want to do, or running a marathon. It doesn't want to do that. You are going to get beaten up, and that's just the way it is. But so the way that I see it is, when I do an exercise, yes, I'm trying to look to see what effects have on your body. If it is going to have a slight negative effect on your body, what negative effect is it having, and what do I have to do to create a positive effect in that situation, if that makes sense? So we are fucking our bodies up doing crazy shit. So I've got to basically look and go, okay, so how can I unfuck that?
The good old unfuck yourself.
Basically, yeah, because we're all fucking ourselves in some way. So my whole point is, you have to work out what's doing that and kind of unfuck it. So if you are doing something which might have it's going to get you amazing biceps, but might be having a detrimental effect onto your shoulder stability, I have to make sure there's a shitload of stuff in there for your shoulder stability to counteract the thing. Again, it depends on the program, how you're writing it, but that's the way you got to kind of think. Okay, this is doing that, but the negative side effect of that is that. So I need to make sure I've got something to basically correct that, because everything's always going to have this kind of, it's a cobweb of just what's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of, I suppose everything comes with a kind of combination of like a risk to reward ratio and an opportunity cost, and it's almost making a really good risk assessment of, right, well, I know that I'm going to get this, but the juice has to at least be worth the squeeze. As far as being able to, if I'm going to put that effort in, I need to know at least that I can either manage or mitigate any issues, or that if I know there's going to be, if I, like, for example, say like going to the elite level of bodybuilding, they know that, okay, well, this is likely going to come with some potential issues or loss of X function down the line. So accept that now, but know that. But I guess also part of the problem is a lot of people don't necessarily think about that, and that's where a lot of the problems end up stemming to later down the line. I just want to dive into the last question quickly, because I've literally got 10 minutes with you left, and I'm sure you've obviously got a lot to get on with as well. So I mentioned in the intro, and I really wanted to make sure I got this in, because I think it's important to finish on this, that you've obviously the birth of Fitness Rebels, and you've elaborated on that, further at the start of this episode, when, what steps do you feel coaches in the industry can, suppose, start being more conscientious about, as far as the major gap in the health and fitness industry? Like, I think you often talk about with the Fitness Rebels, you're trying to bridge the gap between almost like the treatment table, I guess is the best way to describe it, and the gym floor. What do you think more coaches could be, more conscious of? And in other words, how can they be more effective at being part of the solution rather than adding to this problem that we seem to be creating at times?
Understanding the effect they're having on the body. It's like I was saying, you have to understand that if you have a highly stressed person who comes in, who's overweight and highly stressed, if you go and smash them up on HIIT training, make them do the prowler or watt bike to battle, that might be, that's going to be having a damaging effect. Like, if you're not working on the stress and you're not working on bringing down their weight or this kind of stuff, you can be causing damage to their, say, arteries, which then could be giving them high blood pressure. So a lot of people don't take the blood pressure of their clients, which is just crazy. So if you've got a highly stressed client and you're smashing them up, you could actually be having a negative effect, even if you are losing weight. Because if you are losing weight and say you're in a calorie deficit, that's going to be creating more stress. You're creating more stress, that's going to be creating more damage to the vessels. You create damage to the vessels, they could have a heart attack in 2-3 years. But you don't know if you're doing that or not, because you're not looking at the heart, you're not looking at the blood pressure, but you don't even understand what blood pressure is. So if I said, why are you looking at blood pressure? And they go, because it's bad. Why is it bad? Guarantee you 99.9% of people cannot tell me why high blood pressure is bad. It cannot tell me what damage high blood pressure does to the vessels. No one can tell me what high blood sugar levels in the blood do to the vessels. So if you don't know what effect these are having, no one can really tell me what aerobic training does in the body. The difference between anaerobic and aerobic, no one can. So they don't understand how the body is working. And if you don't understand how the body is working, you can't understand the effect that you're having upon it. And that's the issue, is people go on courses, get told this does this, or gets told blood pressure is bad, so XYZ, do this, or this is how you get big legs, or if someone has knee pain, do this. No one's willing to understand what is going on in the knee, what is going on in the biomechanics, the kinesiology, what is going on. Could stress be affecting your knee pain? Do people understand what stress is doing on the body? No. People don't understand, what the HPA axis is, and you don't have to go into something like stupidly in-depth stuff, but to know kind of what's going on. Is the stress causing their digestive issues, and their digestive issues causing them back pain because they can't stabilize? Or, you know what I mean? People aren't taking the time to fully understand what they're doing. They're just going on courses. They'll go on, I know the therapy world's bad for it, just as like the training places. It's like, NK, I've done NKT. People are like, oh, do you like that? Well, not really anymore. Because when you actually start to understand how the body works, you're like, I don't really like it, because I don't, it's basically muscle testing. And if you've ever done a muscle test, you can say to someone, think of something sad, think of something really unhappy, and they'll be weak. And you go, think of a really happy time, and they'll be strong. So what's that fucking muscle test has told you? So what? It just told you that, what, the hamstrings aren't firing, but is that because the hamstrings are weak? No, the hamstrings in a bad position, possibly. The pelvis could be anteriorly tilted, could be in a bad position. Or are they just miserable? Could actually making them happy and enjoyable could actually make their hamstrings turn on? Yes, it possibly could. And and if people don't know that, you can actually go and try that. And it's actually, people studied this shit. But you can actually do that. To say to someone like bicep curl, anything, just say, okay, do a muscle test, make them think of something sad or bad, they'll be weak. Happy, it'll be strong. So you've got all these mechanisms which even the top scientists don't understand. It's still investigating. And it's just, but to not even bother looking into why these things are working, or even how you can manipulate it. Because when you actually understand how these things work, you can still use them every now and then. They're just part of the parcel of working things out. And it will give you an understanding of a better diagnosis as such, a better thing. Okay, I've done all these things, so this client actually would be better off doing this. Do they need loads of strength training, or do they need more aerobic training to begin with, and then we do more strength? Or is that's all good, we can do strength? Or is their knee issue a proprioception thing? Do we need to do more plyometric kind of stuff? Is it a foot problem, or is it a hip problem? Understanding how this stuff works together. And yes, it's complicated. It takes fucking years. I haven't mastered it. I'm still playing with things, and people still learn for years and years on this stuff, and new science is coming out. But my point is to start understanding the effect. Like, I know RTS teaches this, the effect that you're having on the joints when you do training. Now, my point is, okay, yes, the joints, but we got to understand the tissue, the nervous system, the other joints which are involved in this, the stress levels, what's going on in the endocrine system, what effect is your low carb smashing them up in the gym affecting their thyroid, or is it affecting their anxiety? That's another thing people don't understand, is how what you're doing in the gym is affecting their mental state, or their mental state is affecting what they're doing in the gym, or their pain state. It is complicated.
Yeah.
But the only way you're going to get better is by looking into it and understanding how what you are doing is affecting the body, And then when you understand that, you're programmed to become much more like a shotgun rather than machine gun approach.
Yeah, I think that's the way I would almost summarize that. And I think Luke Lehman said something very similar to this, but it's like, you don't need to have a PhD level understanding of all the physiology and of all of these things, but you do need to understand enough of the mechanisms to understand cause and effect. Because at least if you can do that, then you're in a position where you can start to at least start to identify solutions to problems.
And just to finish on that, to wrap it up, on that point, exactly that, but also you don't remember everything. So you might have started, you knew you had a client, you learned loads about the thyroid, you're a thyroid guru, and then you haven't had to know it for 2 years because it's not been an issue for anyone. Someone else comes along and but the thing is you go, those are the same symptoms as my last client. And you go back for your notes and go, okay, shit. It's being aware that these things can happen so that then you can go and study them. I'm not, so if I come across something, I'm like, doesn't seem right, but I'm pretty sure that does that. So then I'll go away and go, fuck yeah, I was right. So being aware of these things, but also being aware of them. And if it is out of your scope of practice, you refer out to the right people. So if you're aware that their knee pain might be a mental issue, then you can refer out to go and get and see someone. If you know their back pain might be a gut issue, you can refer out to a functional medicine. So it's at least knowing these connections. So then you can build a referral system with great people. Then you can refer out and your clients will love you. They'll respect you because all of a sudden you've sent them to the right people. They respect that you're sending them out to people. They'll stay with you for ages because you're the only one who put that shit together. So being aware of it allows you still to give an amazing service. Even if you don't understand it, it allows you to refer out. And when you get that referral system, if you work with a chiropractor, osteopath, functional medicine doctor, what happens is you work together, you will learn from them, but also they will send people to you. And then you've got a new business stream.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. But there's been so much that I've seen over the last years where you just have to know, right? I know up to this point, and then after that, I send to this person who is really, really damn good at solving those problems. And like you said, I've had many chiros based over here who have then ended up, you create that kind of referral relationship, and then that's massive because you're kind of supporting each other's business. But like you said, the more important thing is you're doing right by the client by getting those solutions they need.
I got my guys who they've tried what they've learned on the mentorship, they're thinking, or my clients I train a lot of trainers. Their clients have tried stuff, but then they'll send their clients to me because they just can't. There's something that's not right. And then what I'll do, I'll have a call with my clients or the trainers who have sent people to me, and I will give them feedback. And this is what's going on. This is how you do it. Maybe look at this X, Y, Z and tweak the programs like this. So therefore you're learning as well. So if you get yourself good referrals, these people who don't mind kind of not spending loads of time teaching you, but at least giving you a little bit of a write-up to what they think and how you can do stuff, that, you just keep progressing.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to finish on for sure. So we probably could have talked for another hour, probably at least with the different topics and the different kind of rabbit holes we could have probably dived down there. But where is the best place for people to find you, Nick?
The best place at the moment is my Instagram, Nick D Rebel Coach _Rebel Coach. I'll be over the summer working hard and pushing a lot of content, picking things that up. Website, if you want to know more of what we can do for you guys, is fitnessrebels.co.uk. And then we obviously the podcast, Rebels Radio, which is on virtually most. I think I put it on everywhere, so it's easy to find. That's what I'm doing at the moment. So check it out.
Awesome. I think even just having this conversation, it opened up some new lines of questions that I think would make for an awesome part 2 at some point if you're up for it.
Yeah, totally, man. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks very much again, Nick.
No problem, Dave.